My name is Edward Charles Page. I was with the Canadian Army. I started off in Calgary, and we became part of the 49th Edmonton Regiment. I went overseas in 1939 with that regiment, and because of changes that were taking place, like the Lawrence Scots were going to take over all our duties. We were given the option of Lawrence Scots, part of them, go back to our original regiment or opt to another one, and I asked to be transferred to Armored Corps, and I went down to Aldershot to the reinforcement depot, and of course then the de-upgrade occurred in a few days, within a day or two, and I became one of the many men who went down to replace the ranks in the Calgary Tank at Seaforth, England.
Ed, how old were you when you enlisted?
19.
And were you in Alberta when you enlisted?
Oh yes, Calgary.
You grew up in Calgary?
Yes.
And did you do any basic training in Calgary at all?
No, I did about 1 week in basic training in Calgary.
So you knew that when you enlisted you were going over as a reinforcement, did you?
No, I didn't know where we were going at all. It was I wasn't even sure if I'd be pulled into the Army. The Army had run into a problem. They had found a lot of people who were medically unfit, and they had to take and reboard these and get rid of them before they had 90 days in there. Otherwise, they got taken on pension. And two of my friends who had been down earlier, they had been down and volunteered, and they got a little volunteer ribbon. So when I came back into Calgary, I went down and volunteered, and I was told the same story, that there was a hold back on it, but I would be getting a letter with a volunteer ribbon in it. Well, I got a letter, but no ribbon. It was requested of me that I report to one armory or recruiting depot as soon as possible. And within 48 hours, I had a uniform, and I was part of the Army, and had a bed in Curry Barracks. And a week later, along with about 30 other people, we were transferred up to Edmonton and became part of the 49th Edmonton, the anti-tank platoon.
And how long did you stay in Edmonton?
2 weeks. We had a very, very hectic 2 weeks in there with teeth pulled, teeth filled, inoculation, evacuations, lectures. We were very, very busy. And then we picked up our kit bags and marched down to the railway station and boarded a train on December the 15th and headed east and got out to Halifax 4 days later. We walked off the train, walked up a gangplank onto a ship, and the ship pulled out into the harbor, and we sat there for about 2 days while the rest of the convoy was being formed. And then we were out across the Atlantic, and it took us 8 days across the Atlantic. We had some rough seas, a lot of sick people, everything else, but I found out that I'm a good sailor. I never got seasick. I love every minute of it. And we actually had Christmas. We were on the Batory, a Polish ship. This Polish ship, along with a sister ship, had decided to come to Canada, and they were chased across the Atlantic by submarines. The sister ship was sunk, but the Batory got to Canada, and they burned out an engine doing so, but they got that replaced, and they volunteered to be a troop ship for whoever was needed.
So what was your impression of England when you first got there?
Well, that was the first thing we thought. These were toy engines and toy freight trains, everything else, all these small vessels, stuff like that. But we got to learn a little about their transport and the trains and everything else. And we got to England on the 30th of December. On the 30th of December, on the 31st we got onto a train and spent New Year's Eve going down to Aldershot. And that was our first experience in England. And we marched up to a barracks in Aldershot.
And is Aldershot where you received most of your basic training then?
Yeah, we began with our training in there. We were mostly driving. And of course we did not have army vehicles. They were mostly civilian vehicles. All these small ones, quite different from what we used to with driving. But we're out in the wooded area, just at the track, single track, getting accustomed to the vehicles. And then the sergeant major who was riding with me, he said, let's go out on the highway. So we got on the highway and away we go. We're rolling down the road and suddenly he scratched his head. He said, hey, move over, we're in England now. I was on the wrong side of the road. I never made that mistake again. But we did a lot of training of driving in there.
So they must have thought you were an impressive driver. At what point were you given the role of a dispatch carrier?
Well, it wasn't until not a couple of years. I was with the Edmonton Regiment, and we were told that we were going to France in May. And we were driving trucks. We had got some English trucks by now. And we drove down to Falmouth, down on the south coast of England. And we began loading our vehicles on the ship. And we just finished doing so when orders came, unload. No reason given. So we unloaded, and the next morning we started back, and we went back to Aldershot, to our barracks. That's when we found out about Dunkirk, and what the evacuation had done. We'd almost got involved in the evacuation of Dunkirk there. Some Canadians did get into England, and in fact, they told about the Canadian artillery. They got to England with their guns, and they were told to spike their guns and head back to the port. Well, they spiked their guns to hell for it. That means spike their guns, put them out of action so they can't be used. They manhandled those guns back to the port, got them back to ship, got them back to England. Well, we're back in England and back into training again, and we were there for quite a while.
What were some of your memories when you were training in England?
Well, driving without lights. That's something you had, driving in the blackout. You would have a little bit of a headlight and a little tiny spot of red light in behind to follow another vehicle through you. We did a lot of on there, and believe it or not, you use the sky as well. I remember driving behind a truck, and you could see his lights. But as he turned around, I lost his lights. I can't see them. Can't see the road. So I look up in the sky. You can just see the sky out there a little bit lighter, and I drive like this, hoping that I'm still on the road as I go around the road until I get the lights again and fold them again. So it was quite a hectic job, and we did a lot of driving on it. And I got hooked into being the transport driver. And on one convoy we had, there was going to be 400, just over 400 vehicles out on the road. So I took the transport driver and his batman down to where they take the start point. And he said, okay, you turn over there and get some sleep. So they went out and they counted the 400 vehicles that they're supposed to have. And he woke me up and said, okay, now you've got to go and pass all of these 400 vehicles. We've got to get into the start point and be up there before the first vehicle gets there. That was the amazing thing. Passing these vehicles and getting out about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, some of them start to wander over the road back and forth like this, and I can't honk the horn and stuff like that. And pass all 400 vehicles until the dispersal point. Then I made it safely. Then I woke up the officer, and then they got to get out of the vehicle, and they got to count 400 vehicles passing through there again. That was just one of many types of convoys, transport that we had to go through.
Were you ever exposed to enemy fire with any of the bombings?
There were some bombings on that. There were some bombings in there. Not a great deal, but there were some. And that's where we had the small lights and what. And then a lot of diving with fog. Believe it or not, sometimes with the fog, it was so thick that you could look down and you could just see the front of the vehicle and you could see one white light on the road, one. That's all you do is one, and you drive like that, one after another, like that. A lot of it's amazing amount of driving we had. It was very dangerous, really, but...
Were there any collisions?
There was occasional one, not very often, but there was occasional one. But it was a lot of difficulty to stay on that road because you had nothing to see by. We played a lot of... then I became a staff car driver, and that became other deals. I had to go up there. I had to take a group of 8 officers up to a point in northern England. There was a demonstration being up on there, and I'm on there. I was told that I would have to average more than 50 miles an hour, or it would be too late. But there's all kinds of vehicles all going the way like this. And I've got to get up there to about 60, 70 miles an hour, shaking all these fast. So there was some very hectic guys up through there, and a couple of accidents that we had in there, and the little ice on the road, and working with night times. It was a tremendous task to be able to drive in that kind of a country, and with blackout lights everything it has. It was nerve-wracking at times, but got used to it.
Were you and your unit involved in the defense of England during the Blitz?
Yes, we were called in the defense of England, yes. And there was the definite word that there was going to be a possible invasion. So we were moved down to the south of England. And we were told to keep our rifles loaded and with us 24 hours a day. We slept with them. And I get a kick out of talking about, telling about people. I decided to go down to a pub for a beer. And this would go over well in Canada. So I'm in the pub, and I've got a bandolier, 50 rounds of ammunition around my neck. I got a loaded rifle in this right hand and a mug of beer in this one. That's what we had to do. But fortunately, the Germans decided not to invade, so that part was canceled out there. But we were up there ready for them.
Ed, did you tell me a story one time about, were you ever manning a Lewis gun? Were you part of an anti-aircraft battery?
Oh yeah. We fitted out some of the 30 hundredweight, the 3-ton 30 hundredweight vehicles. We put a pole up on the back, and on the little pole that go into it, lift up the Lewis gun, we'd put it on that pole, and it was right there for handling. So we were doing something to do with water, I believe, and there was an air raid on. And then some of these airplanes coming down low. So one of the other guys grabbed the Lewis gun, gave it to me, and I put the Lewis gun up on there. And then along came this ME-110 down, and I fired firing at the ME-110, and I can see that my bullets were going there because of tracer as well as other. And I'm quite sure that I'm hitting him. And he did make a landing, he did a pancake landing, and he plowed the field. And he wasn't very happy at all. He was trying to land that, and somebody was shooting him down below, and they got a bullet through his leg. He wasn't very happy about that. And the plane stopped, pointing right at a farmhouse. And we weren't very happy about that. We had to evacuate the people just in case that. So we stood guard on that plane. And I even got into the cockpit. I looked it all over like that. Quite interesting to there.
You took him as prisoner of war.
Pardon?
You took him as prisoner of war, I'm imagining.
Took him prisoner of war, and the British MPs came up and took him away. But
Did you talk to him yourself, Ed?
no, I didn't talk to him at all. He was taking notes. He said, "No, I like to do." But
What was the morale in England?
morale was good. I think morale was very, very good. There's no problem at all. We had there a lot of bombing, and I do look back on it, and I realize that these bombing raids that they had, they were good training for us. They weren't good for the enemies, but training for us, because actually when we finally into action, we were prepared for bombing raids and head fire, stuff like that, that if we hadn't done so, it would have been a little bit difficult. An example of that, Bill Blokes and I, we had transferred to the Armored Corps, and we were walking around one Sunday, walking when the air raid siren sounded. Well, we look up to see where it's from, where the danger is, see if we're in our area or not. Because we were used to air raids, and you took evasive action or into a shelter, whatever was needed. But if it wasn't, you just kept on going and kept an eye on it. But two soldiers just across the other, all of a sudden, "Hey, what's that? What's going on?" We said, "Air, no, we shouldn't have been here. We shouldn't have been here." I said, "So how long have you guys been here?" They said, 2 days. We watched and left them. That's what would happen if you hadn't been training. We had about 2 years of it by now. So we knew what to do, what to actually take.
So at what point were you assigned to the motorbike?
Well, in early 1942, we got word that the Lawrence Scots were taking over our duties. We had been an anti-tank platoon, but we had now become guard and transport for our headquarters. So each headquarters was given a platoon for staff car drivers and for other duties. To the Lawrence Scots, they did something, they goofed somewhere in World War I, and they were not allowed to wear kilts, they were trews, and they're not allowed to go into action, into battle action. So they were going to take over all the transport and guard duties of all the various headquarters. And we were given the choice of transferring to them or of requesting to some other unit. Well, I didn't want to be that, so I requested transfer to an armored corps. And that's when I went up to the armored corps and got down there just about 2 days before Dieppe raid. And I ended up with the being a reinforcement for the Calgary Tanks.
So you were there. You got down to the 14th Canadian Armored Regiment just 2 days before the Dieppe raid.
Just about 2 days before the Dieppe raid.
But you didn't participate in the Dieppe raid.
No, I didn't get part of it. No.
So what must have that been like, watching the regiment go off and come back again,
we didn't choose
shattered?
to go off. We thought them come back because we went down to we were there about 2 days after the raid, and we went down to see them. And we were told by Major Tom Ward, just be careful what you say around here. These people have gone through hell right now, so just be careful what you do and what you say. So we obeyed this and kept our mouths shut and asked a few questions here and there. So they talked about putting me into the tank gunner. Well, I said I didn't think I wanted to be a tank gunner on. They said, hey, how about a motorcycle? Well, I thought, yeah, I grabbed that, a motorcycle on a Norton, what we call a Norton. And Sergeant Dodd was the sergeant of motorcycles. And we went into a very extensive motorcycle course, driving up and down hill, over hills, so on the rough, laying on the bicycles, laying it on this way, laying them down that way. We did a very, very complete training of those motorcycles, that we could do just exactly what we had to do with them. We could do anything we wanted with them. And it was a very complete course. And we never, and it paid off. It paid off because a lot of motorcycles were killed. They were just told to ride a motorcycle, and that was it. They were given no training. I remember even Teddy Wade, who was a sergeant major, he was told to ride a motorcycle. And I wrote to him one day, and he said, how's it going? He said, Ed, I'm not scared anymore. He said, I was scared of that motorcycle, scared as can be. He said, but I'm down the road, all of a sudden, he said, I'm in between two vehicles, in between two of them. He said, all I got to do is stick my finger out that way, and that's where I'll touch the other one. He said, nothing happened. He said, I'm not scared anymore. But it was, a lot of people got injured, some got killed on motorcycles, but we went through a very complete course. And we only had, right, I know only one small accident with a motorcycle, even during the campaign in Italy.
How many of you were there riding attached with the Calgary Regiment?
12 of us, only 12 motorcycles in there. And well, I became part of the regimental police, where 6 of us had regimental police as a sergeant, and we were all lance corporals. And our job was traffic control we have to move the regiment, move the squadron. We have to be there, point duty, take them out to there, bring them back in. That it was our job to get them in nighttime, daytime, and was control those vehicles at all time. And it was quite a, it was an example of that. My regiment, this regiment was a reserve, call it a reserve regiment. The Ontario and the 3 Rearage Regiment were in forward battle, and we were backing up into moving it out of that. So we had to move them in and out. And I remember bringing out a squadron, and they kicked up a dust bowl. So help me. I'm standing there, and I can't see. If I put my hand this far, I couldn't even see for dust. Here, dust. All I can hear is this tank moving, and rear is moving. I'm ready. I got to be ready to move. This one, got to move that way, down this one. All the noise it does. So it was quite nerve-wracking a little, but we survived on there. We took the tanks in and out, and it was quite exacting.
How long did it take the regiment to recover after Dieppe?
Well, it wasn't too long. We got back into Dieppe. They had Churchill tanks. Churchill tanks, and believe it or not, they had hardball shot that didn't even have a high explosive in there. All they're doing is throwing steel balls or something. And you can't see from the side because you're back behind here and the tanks, so you can't even see this side, you can't even see the other side of those. So they're not very good one, not very nice for safety. So then we got moved from south of England up in Scotland, up to Dumfriesshire. And then we got new tanks, Sherman tanks. Now there's quite a big difference in the Sherman tank, and the drivers up there where you can see back and forth, so you can see everything else, and they're easy to drive, whatnot. But in Scotland, our job is still doing some police work as well as traffic control. But the other men are employed in learn to drive these tanks, learn to service them, and to waterproof them. And because of waterproofing, it was said to us that we're probably going to have a waterborne invasion. That's what we thought, and I guess it turned out that way. So we were in Scotland, and finally we head down the dock into ships. So we know we're going somewhere. And I get into Ellie Raskin. Ellie Raskin, he's one of the guys. He got onto a passenger vehicle, a passenger ship. I got into LST, which is a landing tank, the invasion one, into that. And we spent 21 days on there, going up around in North Ireland, down through France, Portugal, Spain, into the Gibraltar, through there, up into Pachina on Sicily.
When were you told you were going to
We
Sicily?
didn't know where we were going. We had
Not till you got there?
Nobody showed till we got there. And we spent our days taking turns with manning a machine gun, ACAC gun, in case we were attacked from there. And we landed at Pachino in Italy. And I was watching a dogfight up there in the air, dogfight. and I wasn't much funny going, and I stepped in a porthole, and the whole hole, and went right down, caught my leg on the lip. I had a lip like that, just caught my leg on that, oof. It didn't break the skin, but it sure hurt. It didn't stop me from riding the motorcycle. But I got back on the motorcycle and we unloaded the vehicles in the dark. And we didn't even know where we were. We still hadn't even told where we
But the invasion
landed.
had started, but you didn't know where you were.
Nope. So I got the last of the vehicles off of that and started up, and then the vehicle stopped. So I went to the front, and I flew up to the front to the driver up there. What's the matter? He said, "What do I go from now?" I said, "Well, you can't stay here. Follow me." So we started up this road and came to some buildings and people there, so I stopped. And this man came out walking towards me. So I pulled out my revolver, got my revolver out right just in case. It turned out he was the MP, so I put that away, and he showed me where to go and cut it with another MP, and we found that we were in Sicily. Now Sicily, of course, for this regiment, was not too difficult because we were the reserve battalion. We had to support the Ontario and the Three Rivers Regiment. And this is what kept us busy. We would move around a squadron there to support them here. We'd pull them back from here, we'd move them to here, we'd pull them from here, pull them back. We were the reserve battalion, and we kept moving back and forth. So we didn't actually do any fighting in there. We did come into some artillery fire, we come to air activity as well on that. But it was kind of an easy for us in Sicily.
Easy way to get your feet wet.
No, and the battle began on the 12th of July. And we had landed on the 14th of July, and the Ontario and the Three Rivers Regiment, they did the battle, and the battle was over on the 17th of August. 17th of August, and the Germans pulled out, and the Italians surrendered. So our three regiments got together, and we had a sports day, a 2-day sports day right here. In my regiment, we rounded up all the horses, mules, donkeys we could find, and we had a little Calgary stampede right there in the Calgary, right there. But finally, the game's over. We're on the way again, and we went down to Messina. Messina's up on the northeast corner of Sicily. And again, we get into an LST landing ship tank, and we moved into Reggio Calabria, Italy. We were invaded Italy on September the 3rd. We captured an airdrome on the 4th, and then we turned it over to the Air Force. Then we formed what we called a JOC troop, a troop of tanks and infantry, and get ready to go to looking for the enemy. Well, we got a hot reception. We got attacked by our own fighter aircraft 3 days in a row. The first day and the third day we were attacked by British fighter aircraft. On the second day we got attacked by American aircraft, and we took some casualties from that, and Doc Alexander had to take care of them. On the first day I crawled underneath the tank. I thought later on that wasn't a very good place to be, so from there I just took into a ditch. But that was our our initiation into Italy. And we now have to contend with the Germans. They're blowing up roads, blowing up bridges, and suing us. So that was our...
That was particularly problematic for an armored unit.
Yeah.
Just before we move into Italy, I was wondering, Ed, were you operating at full capacity, your armored regiments? Because I had heard that one of the ships that had many of the vehicles had been sunk on the way to the invasion of Sicily.
Not one of ours.
You didn't have any, you weren't affected by that at all?
We had no problem at all. No.
And so then you...
There was the ship sunk, and there was the nurses on there, but all the nurses were rescued. But no, we didn't have any problem.
So when you started up the approach up the boot, then that was what? Did you run into any enemy action there?
Yes, we did, going up, and the enemy was trying to slow us down. They would blow up bridges, blow up roads, and whatnot. They would have stand and some fire, some action in there. In this one place, we got the rifle fire across our front. This was kind of a interesting one in the way. We stopped to see what it was about. And a man in a blue uniform came walking through here, and he was directed over to the colonel. So he goes over to the colonel, he salutes and talks to him in Italian. But the colonel spoke French and English. So he sent him over to me. Why me? I don't know. Why over to me? So I didn't Italian either. So I called out, anybody here talk Italian? Well, we had a corporal who was Italian origin. His parents were Italian, and he spoke Italian very good. So he came over here, and he spoke to this man. This man was a lieutenant colonel of the colonel, and he was in charge of a Italian rifle regiment. He didn't want to fight, he just wanted to take his men and go home. So the colonel told them, tell your men to lay down your rifles and start walking. So he left. A little while later, he came out leading his men down the road. And this one Italian soldier broke ranks, and he headed over to me. Why me again? As he came over to me, he unhooked something from his neck. And it was a little Catholic symbol that they have, kind of. And he spoke English. He said, this brought me through the war, maybe it'll do to me. And he hooked that around my neck. And he turned and walked over and joined his men. So that was our first Italian there. And there were several times when they attacked here and there, or really tried to stop us.
When was the first time you were dug in, facing the enemy?
We were dug in. We weren't dug in. We went on and up, and we got up to Ortona.
What about the Sangro River? Did you stop at the Sangro?
I haven't got to there yet.
Okay.
We got up to Italy, got up to Ortona, and this is where things changed, like, because Ortona, there is a book about Ortona, and there's 1,300 Canadians died and buried at Ortona. And it was a bitter battle all there. We took a squadron of them. We put it onto, there was Vino Ridge, there's the gully, and the crossroads, that all various places where many attacks made. And Ellie Raskin, one of those, got in the Vino Ridge. And they're on Vino Ridge where they could see the enemy. The enemy could see them, but they were in this hold-down condition, and they could not open the hatches on the attack because they'd be shelled by the enemy. Anytime they opened it, every time they moved, the enemy opened fire with them. So they had to stay in the tanks for all day long. Well, they had food, they had water, and they had a little stove in there to heat the water. And they stayed in there. But of course they had no toilet facilities. And you couldn't get out of the tank until after dark. And this is when the toilet facilities, what they had asked for was a shell casing from the loader operator. And they made use of that shell casing and give it back up to the loader operator, and he was throwing out the pistol part. That went on for 11 days. So the battle in Otona was quite a fierce one. And there's one little story that I like. A German tank showed up. It gave the infantry some bad times. But one of our tanks spotted it, and they promptly knocked out the German tank. Now we had the Seaforth Highlanders in there. And the Seaforth Highlander, he walked over to that tank, he goes to it, and he patted it, he said, "You cast-iron son of a bitch, I could kiss you." But there's a lot of other stories that came up in our tournament.
What was your role during that operation?
Well, my job was just to be there, and to be any tanks, any move around. So we were in a limbo in there. We were close to the action on that, but we were not called for very much at all, just to be there, except in the, except in the food. They chose some of us to lead mule trains down to these tanks that are on Ena Ridge. And they take in food, ammunition, gasoline, and they had on one occasion, they had to bring out an officer who chickened out, and he would not allow his tank to even fire a weapon. He just kept there. And Tiny Putman, we called him Tiny because he was 6'9" and 250 pounds. He had orders to bring that officer out. So Tiny Putman leading this mule train, he says he felt bigger than the mule that was there. He was there, and they hauled this officer out of the tank. This tank, he was mad at them, swearing at him, everything else. They told him, "Get walking." They got him out of there, and he was sent down to adjutant's disposal later, but we got rid of him. That's just one of the incidents in there, but the mule train had to go in every night, and Ellie Raskin, they found a cave, and they were in the cave sometimes but at the same time, enemy would shell in there. It was while enemy shelled during the night that L.A. Raskin got wounded in his leg, and he still has his bad leg in there, he still has trouble with that in there.
Did you ever have any other responsibilities, like bringing out the wounded?
No, I didn't. I had to...
driving an ambulance, that kind of thing?
No, well, actually, I was, none of that. Oh, yeah, pardon me, bring up yes, pardon me. At Moila, it wasn't something, at Moila, we got into a battle with the Germans, And my job was go down, bring up the ammunition and the gasoline trucks, get them up here. And that's what this officer, who later on we had pulled him up, even made his vehicle pulled over. He swore at me. He said, "I'll get back at you." I told him, "Get the hell out of here. I'm bringing the ammunition and the gasoline trucks up because our guys are covered for that." Well, we had a motorcycle, got injured. The officer had him come up close to the tank, stayed with them. He shouldn't have been there. And he's riding my motorcycle. He got hit by a shell, and Tommy got wounded in there. He was here in Calgary just a few days ago from us, but the motor we had hit by Germans, a tank knocked out, the co-driver was killed, we lost an officer up there, a major up there, another major had problem, had got his tank high centered up on a anti-tank gun, and so it's pretty a little bit of a battle in there for excuse me, take a break. I gotta get that man's name. Yeah.
And I'm also interested how you spell that, Moolah.
No, it was Tommy. Huh? Who?
How do you spell Moolah? The place that you're referring to.
Mota.
Mota, M-O-T-A.
M-O-T-T-A.
Oh,
Mota.
this is Mota Montecorvino.
Mota, yeah, Mota, yeah, Mota.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, we got Mota there, we got it there, and it was there. We had a sergeant. My sergeant was a bit of a joker, okay. He's a bit of a joker as well. And they'd come back with his tank. And they asked for somebody to help take out this man who'd been killed, the co-driver. So Jack got in there, and right away he didn't feel so good because of the smell and whatnot. But the man who got hit here, his arm had been severed off and had been killed. And Jack was a bit of a card, and the medic came here to help him with his body out. So Jack took hold of this arm, and he handed the bar out. The guy pulled it out. I can't hold it again. He wanted to take it out. That wasn't quite the nicest thing to do, but that's part of what you got to be able to do. You got to be able to do those sort of things.
To survive the trauma.
To survive, if you're going to try to survive. They got him out. It was Trooper Brown. He was killed by that. But Jack Naylor was my sergeant. So at Mota, we prevailed and started moving farther on up again. But then something that a little later vein, what we had is trouble getting a wash, getting a bath. And we moved up, we stopped one afternoon, decided we'd have a supper. And we looked out to the east. There's this huge body of water. Oh, lovely. Very tempting. But between us and the water, there's a nice sandy beach. Is it safe? Is it booby trapped? We don't know. We all had the same idea. So we all started going. We started walking. We spread out about 6 or 8 feet apart, walking down there, dragging our feet in the sand, dragging them, looking for that. We got right to the water. Oh, it's bad. we stripped off and went skinny dipping in there for about 2 hours in there. Oh, that was a beautiful time in there. That's one of the few times we got a really good cleaning in there.
And this wasn't summertime either.
It was it was in summertime.
Oh, it was still summer? It was still hot?
See, it was in July. It was July, yes, July in there. Because we landed on the July the 14th.
So this was still while you were in Sicily?
September now, pardon me, September. Yeah, in September in there. Then we were still at Artona. And so I got chased by two German aircraft, and I'm going down the roads, and all of a sudden, take a look, there's the two MB-109s shooting at me. I'm heading back, and my buddy just like, come on in, get over here. Flipped over him and killed the engine and dived into the slit trench. That's just one of the fun times in there. But we had another event on that too that I had to the brigade. We had a big barn, and we were sleeping in the barn. George Thompson, he's outside with the tent. And it was my tent, our tent. But he decided to sleep out in the tent. I decided to sleep on there. I had been back down the road on a court martial. And we used to get shelled whatever 2 or 3 times every night in there. And Tommy, his tent had 2 or 3 shell holes in it. And we've just finished one shelling, and I go out. I took a look out and said, "It's like smoke." Hey, Tommy. Hey, Thompson. Hey, Thompson. Yeah. Oh, holy God, he said. He looked around. He had about 15 holes in his tent. He'd been there sound asleep in there. Well, I went back into the barn, and when the other guys left, and he left the door open. So one of our guys got up, he walked over and closed the door, and he walked back again. He went, down! He put his foot on something hot while he'd been closing the door. A little shrapnel had come in with something up right on this there. That's just some of the little things. But then
some close calls. Some close calls.
Close calls.
Did you ever have any close calls yourself?
Oh yes. I was on point duty, traffic, and there was the headquarters was in here. And I walked across the road, just walked across the road, when suddenly shells started coming in. So I lay down, and there was a hedge, so I lay down very close to that hedge. I'm laying down, and these shells are coming in, and you can hear the shrapnel tearing their way through the head. Shrapnel coming through there, and I keep them down low, and the shell stopped. I looked up, just then a truck come up. Guys looked down and said, "What the hell are you doing down there, Paige?" I said, "Maybe you guys don't know what I'm doing down there, but I do. You just look under that truck." Apparently they had been down to San Leonardo for a little rest and relaxation. On the way back, they hit a stop at the Bailey Bridge. They were stopped about 2 minutes, and then they moved up. That was just it. They had been up that 2 minutes. They were right when the shells would be coming down from there. Here, I said, just take a look under that vehicle, see what's down there. And look, there's Fisher. Fisher was still draped over the fender of the truck. From there. That was there. So that was there. And I got to little tiny pimple on here. I got so much down on the ground, I ripped the head off and made it bleed. Bleeded. So that's just part of.
Was Fisher was wounded? Was he?
No, he wasn't wounded.
But he wasn't.
He was there, thing, and he can had a shrapnel hit the windshield of the truck he's laying, and he saw shrapnel bounce off his motorcycle like that, and he survived from that. But a call came from headquarters. There was a truck coming in to our unit, and he didn't know how to get there. So put a man out on the road to catch that truck that got out there. So I was in charge of the group at the time, and all I had to do was say, Jim, or something like that, here you go out there. But I was nervous. I thought, no, I can't do that because it's going to be, I'm scared. So I said, I don't think I'll go out there. So then I was ready to go, and I remembered seeing a movie, a Western movie, and there was 3 people, a girl and 2 men, kind of marooned up there in the stove drift. And they got no food or anything like that. And this other guy, he's very superstitious about the cards. And he said, you don't think they're going to come? And he turned over the card. That was a 3 of spades. That told him that was death. So he took away, and he shot himself. Well, here I am, ready to go out, and I remember that movie. I don't know why I remember that movie. And I thought, I don't think I want to go, but I guess I got to. I said, if I was to turn over the 3 of spades from the card out there, I wouldn't do it. And the deck was over here, but there was 1 card face down. I said, picture this. I charged it. God, my heart almost stopped, and it was the 3 of spades. I had to do it. I still had to do it. I had to walk back out there, out to the crossroads, and I could hear the mortars, the German mortars and others, and I know exactly where I can hide. I was out there about 45 minutes. I had asked Jimmy to come out in about an hour from now and relieve me. I thought there were 45 minutes, and I saw Jimmy Giesbert. And he said, okay, Ed, the cancel, the truck isn't coming. I was glad to get back into that. So that's just one of the things. But then we were going to break the Gustav line. And our job, my job, others, we are going to lead the tanks down to this bridge. And we've got to find a way to do it. We've got to find a pathway. So we get out with this group. There's six of us and an officer. So we start out down this road for it. And the officer, he decides that I want you to walk like this. This is the way I want you to walk. This to head down. How'd it sound like that? We hadn't gone very far when a machine gun opened on us. We just hit the ground. They took the officer prisoner. It took him must have an hour before he showed that we were friendly. So he came back and got free. Then we started again. But again, he's crouched down. I said, no way. I said, I'm going to walk this way. I'm going to walk straight up and walk through. And the three guys behind me, they all walked up the same way. The sergeant, he looked back, he saw it, he got up. I gave him the washout caution. So he stood up. So then the officer looked back and almost had a heart attack, all those guys there. And Jack gave him the washout. So the officer decided to stand up. Well, I still think it was the right thing, because we're going through the Indian troops, and from then on, we were challenged, but we weren't shot at first. That was our first night. The second night, we're going down again, and this officer had a Jeep, and he's got a map out on there, and he's lighting matches, so we read this map. Well, I guess the enemy didn't like that. All of a sudden, swoop, real stream coming in. We just slide down underneath a bridge. There was a bridge there. And we heard somebody say, who the hell messed here? We don't know what it was about. But later found out, Cottenham had gone in, and he's put his hand in something soft and sticky. And he's in there in the dark, he's going, oh, it was only mud. But we got out of that one, and we got shells 3 more times. This was on the second night. There's a third night. We'd on the way back, we're coming up a sunken road. About 10 feet on each of the side, sunken road. And there's 3 of us, we're in the front, and 3 guys farther back. Get farther up, and suddenly, call came, halt! Who goes there? I stopped, looked up, and there was a machine gun looking at me, and 2 Indian soldiers. A little pause. We were told the password was jam. The reply was tart. So, what call came out? Jam! I called, tart! Nothing happened. There was a little pause. Call came again. Jam! I said, tart! Still no answer. Uh-oh, we got trouble. That's twice, third time, the 3 times, they're going to shoot. So what do I do now? And it suddenly crossed on me. We'd been working with the Indian troops, and we had found a name difficult with names. So we started calling each other Johnny. Hello, Johnny. Where are you going, Johnny? What's going, Johnny? What's up, Johnny? So fine. So I looked, and there was a sergeant, one of their sergeants standing up on there. And I looked up and I said, okay, Johnny. Cocked his head, and okay, Johnny. The 3 guys behind me, they went through the same deal. Then the sergeant came down, and he said, give the right password. He said, my men shoot. Actually, we gave the right name. He said, jam tart. He said, they didn't tell you? He said, tart means nothing to an Indian. You say jam pie, or my men shoot. That was one hell of a time for us to take a fight. On the 4th night, this is the last night of our recce, and we're putting up white ribbon. And then I was ribbon. So I said, I'll go back to the truck and get some more out of the Jeep. So I got back there and got the more tape. And then I saw there was a little path, so I took a different route back up, not the route the tanker would take. I got back up to where I thought these guys were working. Can't hear a thing, can't see a thing. And then I looked, there was the horizon, and there was the sky. And I just saw a head, just a head of a soldier. And there, nothing but a head, and it was had a bray on that bray. And I recognized exactly that bray, how that bray was. I knew who that was wearing that bray. It was George Thompson. I said, "You Tommy?" I said, "Christ sakes," he said, "one more step and I was going to pull the trigger." He had a revolver out, and he was pointing straight at me. Well, we moved back, we finished the day, moved back to where the, a little bit of a shack there. I just got back there and turned off the ignition when all hell was loose. The 11 o'clock, the attack went in, and all the artillery started opening up. And I stopped and took a look. There's a tank staring right for us. At the first engine didn't start. Got that off to one side. Just got the keep off to one side as the tank went slipping on down. That was the tank in there.